Hi, everyone. I'm Bruno Aziza, and I'm excited to welcome you to our Google Next customer panel with two amazing data leaders. I have with us Danielle, who's the Chief Data Officer at Albertsons Companies, and Jaime, who's Vice President of Data Strategy and Enablement at Tatis. Each of our data leaders have an incredible story of growth and innovation. In the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to talk about their journey, what they've learned along the way, and we'll dive into their use cases as well as ask them about their best and worst practices. So this session is just the beginning of many conversations that we hope to have with you and that we hope you will have with our panelists. So let's get started. Danielle and Jaime, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thanks, Bruno.
All right, well, let's start with you, Danielle. Why don't you take a minute to tell us about you and your company?
Okay, so I have a bit of a unique background for a chief data officer. My undergraduate degree is actually in forestry, of all things, quantitative terrestrial ecology, and I wanted to make better decisions about the environment. So I went and got a master's degree in statistics. And while doing that, I worked as a graphic designer. So it gives you a sense of my broad breadth, and I've done a lot of work that brings all of those things together, whether it be in product management or in data science or any different area. Bringing all those things together to build beautiful customer experiences is what I love to do, and I'm very excited to be able to do that at Albertsons Companies. Just recently started there a few months ago, and they are doing a wonderful job of transforming the grocery business into something delightful for our customers, and I'm really excited to be a part of it.
So, Danielle, you started recently after about 15 years at American Express. You also are a 2021 CDO Magazine Global Data Power Woman. So, we're really excited to have you here. Lots to share around financial services and lots to share around retail. Now, Jaime, you have been at TELUS, which is a leader in telecommunication, for quite a few years as well. Tell us about yourself and tell us about TELUS.
Indeed. Thank you, Bruno. So my current role is Vice President of Data Strategy and Enablement. And I work alongside very talented people across different business units in the company to become a leading insights-driven company leveraging next-generation cloud-based architecture for enterprise analytics and delivering cutting-edge AI and ML capabilities to accelerate value creation. TELUS is much more than a traditional telecommunications organization. We are a dynamic, world-leading communications and IT company with more than 60 million customer connections, spanning wireless, data, AI, IP, voice, television, entertainment, video, security, healthcare, and agriculture. We're leaders in the technology space, and we are accelerating our digital transformation, working closely with our partner Google as part of our 10-year strategic alliance to modernize our IT and network infrastructure and explore co-innovation projects together, which will redefine how services are delivered in Canada and beyond.
Wow, so a lot of volume, a lot of breadth, and of course, people are wondering, what are you doing with all this data? So I'm curious, maybe starting with you, Danielle, tell us a little bit about the use cases you're working with, personalization, fraud detection. What are you doing with all that data?
So Albertsons has a lot of data, right? 1.5 billion transactions, over 50 million customers across 22 different banners across the country. So we have a lot of data, and we can use that for lots of different things, including improving our delivery of our supply chain, all the way through to delivering beautiful personalized experiences in our mobile app and in our omnichannel environments.
That's great, Danielle. What about you, Jaime? Tell us about the use cases that you're driving at TELUS.
Indeed, so we're collecting and processing data across all aspects of the customer journey. If you break down a customer journey into different categories like learn, buy, get, use, pay, support, TELUS have data analytics transformation initiatives underpinning all these stages. And a reliable partner like Google provides us with 10x scale capability that we need and also brings cutting edge AI capabilities to the table. We leverage these capabilities to allow us to develop smarter products and services. Just think about NLP, for instance, and how can this transform how you can operate and serve your customers and also extract costs out of your operations as well. As an example, imagine a customer 360 data platform that is able to operationalize insights for different channels ensuring that no matter the channel, you can have all the relevant insights to offer the best customer experience.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Breaking data silos sometimes comes through better organizational footprint. How did you decide to organize your team across data engineering and data quality and data management, Jaime?
Indeed. So one of the things that is very critical for us is the fact that when people think about being data driven, the first term that comes to head is AI and advanced analytics. However, to be able to do it at a scale, you need a very solid foundation to achieve it. In my experience, the foundational elements to consider are what data you have as a company, where does it reside, what does it mean, and in terms of data quality, is the data any good? These are not easy questions to answer given the fact that you need to go through both legacy and modern systems at enterprise scale. So we conceptualize our data ecosystem in three layers. What data we have as a company, what data from the available pool we are using for analytics, and how that data we use for analytics is being used to create more insights. So metadata management is a living organism which requires a cultural change. Teams needs to understand why it's critical to document and catalog data, not any different than for decades software developers keep code repositories with version control. You need to know and manage the life cycle of your data as you do for your code. So we have decided to embark on a metadata management journey, and we're working with external partners together with Google to build TELUS data governance centers where we centralize information about data assets, the provenance, business descriptions, policy classification. And one of the things that we have discovered is the fact that when data communities of data scientists are able to have a data glossary and catalog to be able to find the data assets that they need, we have seen reductions of 80% plus of the time it takes to set the projects. In the past, many teams have to go and go to different teams to try to find how to get access to the data, what data do they have. Now, when that information is at their fingertips, actually you can unleash the democratization of this data under a privacy and security by design construct that allows data scientists to actually focus their efforts on the delivery or writing the code instead of waiting weeks or months to be able to collect all the information that they require to do their projects.
So data management and data access, I see you nodding, Danielle, because I'm sure as you're building your team, it's probably something you're grappling with. How are you approaching the problem of data management and the data access?
Well, at Albertsons, we have so much very rich, powerful data across a lot of different experiences. We have, 1.5 billion transactions a year on almost 50 million customers, and just data across supply chain, customer experience, e-commerce. We have rich data sets, and in order to be able to manage them effectively, we are heavily in the cloud, right? And we are moving to that really, very metadata management approach to our data with robust data models and making sure that data can be accessible to anyone. So democratization of the insights is a very important factor for us, not just for the data being available to our data scientists, but also being available very seamlessly through our BI tools to the rest of the organization to empower decision making on a day-to-day basis so that the company itself can be a multiplier. The data can be a multiplier for the company versus it's remaining with the analytics and data science teams. So we're embarking on data literacy programs to make sure that the organization can be as effective as possible with data going into the future.
Jaime, I know you've put a function on data engineering, enabling people to innovate at scale. Tell us about Team 2 and Team 3 in your organizational footprint.
Indeed. So I'll talk to Team 2 as you mentioned it. So as to recall, I was talking about the data silos. So to become data-driven, companies cannot make holistic decisions within data silos. In the data siloed world, each department makes decisions based on the data they have, meaning the data they have access to, potentially missing important and relevant insights from other departments that will show a more holistic picture and more well-rounded and solid decision making. So TELUS has evolved its use of data silos to inform different technology decisions and support distinct processes across business units. As a technology leader in the Canadian marketplace, TELUS puts its customer first in everything we do. By nature of our business, we are an omnichannel company. For example, a customer journey that begins online may transition to retail store and possibly to a customer care agent. So collecting and processing data across all aspects of this journey is essential to becoming a truly customer 360 company. So we can market to the customer better, design a better experience for them, and to truly digitally transform how we operate. So for doing that efficiently, we need to bring data across our organization, curate it, transform it, enrich it in order to drive more actionable intelligence. Our technology enablement strategy is leveraging GCP for this digital transformation. So in order to break the silos, we are consolidating on-prem data lakes, massive warehouses, and we're curating this information through a privacy and security by design method with metadata management and all these good qualities we just talked about, leveraging BigQuery and Bigtable as required. So actually, we're able to have a federated model that we can democratize the insights by allowing different business units to have their workbenches that are equipped with all the different functions that Google can provide to accelerate the way that they take this data and actually build more insights that are going to be useful not only for their own teams, but many other teams who actually are going to be able to find them in this enterprise data hub that we're building.
Now, you talked about omnichannel, which I'm sure is a term that Danielle's thinking about all the time because you have customers online and, of course, in the stores. How do you approach this problem, Danielle? And what's your take on how you organize yourself for artificial intelligence and advanced analytics?
Well, I think it's important to organize around, to your point about you got to have the data engineering, the data products, the right tools, people, and capabilities to deliver on the outcomes of omnichannel. So let me give you just an example. So just say you're in store, right? You have your phone in hand, like many of us do with your list. What if we were to, pop to you? Would you like to see what you bought the last time you were in this aisle? Right? That's the kind of personalized omni-channel experience that we want to design our teams to build, right? And design our systems and capabilities to build. We have all the data. We have all of the right people, and we're building the infrastructure now to be able to deliver on that type of use case.
And you need to be able to deliver this in real time because, of course, when you deliver the information, it's not got to be actionable right when that person is in that aisle. Now, I also know that sometimes you got to think about how do you innovate according to a certain time frame. And I know, Jaime, you've thought a lot about that problem. How do you organize yourself when you think about innovation in the next week versus innovation next 10 years? Do you create different teams for that? What's the organizational footprint for it?
Indeed. So for innovation, as the word itself is different, it's not a waterfall project. So innovation is you have to go through sprint and be able to be very efficient to test the hypothesis. So the way that we go at innovation is nothing is a bad idea, but the way that we rank on how we're going to test those ideas is very much based on the fact of how quickly can you can you test the first truth of the hypothesis just to be sure that it's worth to keep on working on it and to scale it in the future. So the way that we have it is we actually have ways to rank it on how much effort you're required to be able to test it. And that's when the cloud really allows different teams to have the scalability to be able to go through this funnel of hypotheses really quickly. And then you scale accordingly. And the other thing that the cloud provides that is extremely good is that actually the scalability that you're required when some of those hypotheses come through and you actually want to create it at large operation scale. Um, to your second point on how do we do a longer term innovation, so you're completely right. There's certain ideas that are a little bit tougher to be able to crack, but that we know that there's total value in doing them. And for that, some of those actually can take months or a year or even more. And for some of them, we partner with think tanks and different institutions close to academia in the country at the Vector Institute of Technology, where we work together to actually bring some of these more complex issues to light and be able to offer solutions utilizing the power of AI to be able to create new solutions for common problems.
And that's a great way to engage your employees as well with the ecosystem of people innovators and thinking about the issue of how to harness data and how to get value from data. Okay, we've covered a lot about your use case, your organizational footprint. I want to get into the best and the worst practices. So I'm going to start with the harder one, which is the worst practice. I want to ask either of you, what is the one thing you would tell this audience, or maybe tell yourself at the beginning of this project? What is the one thing you want to avoid? And if there's more than one, it's fine to share that much as well. Who wants to get started?
I'll go ahead. If it's an analytics project, right, a data science project, I would say the first thing is don't go data snooping, right? Have your hypothesis and make sure you're clearly testing it. Don't go data snooping unless your intention is to be completely wide open, right? Because then you end up usually finding the answer you're looking for through confirmation bias, which is not really a good way to run a business, right? So don't data snoop. If you're talking about a data products project, right, then I would say be very clear about what you're trying to accomplish and why you're trying to accomplish it, and make sure you're very design, you architect your solution, and you get things, you get your minimum lovable product together, and then you start building, right? And then you continue to iterate from there. Versus often, I think we get started on our data products with a vague idea of what we want, and that in a data products world doesn't work very well, right? Because data products are very complicated.
So this idea of confirmation bias is something we hear a lot about. I'm curious about how do you institutionalize this? Meaning, how do you make sure that we are not just humans making decisions, right? So do you create teams that reinforce that? What's the tactic that you use? Because I think humans in general tend to be influenced by their own bias without even realizing it. So have you kind of cracked the nut there on how to remove that, Danielle?
Well, I think that the first thing is like, so I would go back, I would go to the other side of this, which is the do's, right? Which is, first of all, you got to know your data, right? Know your data and understand it. And you have to have a very clear business purpose why you're doing what you're doing, and a hypothesis and a proper response design. So that means you're looking, you know what you're looking, this is the outcome I want, right? For the business purpose. And here's the revenue I believe that business purpose is going to drive. And then start modeling, right? Versus looking for, kind of just going out and seeing what's there in the data. You can do strategic analytics ahead, right, to see what's there, but you better not have a hypothesis then.
Yeah, so this idea of starting with the end in mind is an interesting one because I know that, Jaime, you have determined metrics for your team that are revenue related. Can you tell us a little bit more about that before I ask you about your don'ts?
Indeed. So one of the things to add to the do's, and I very much echo Danielle's do's 100%, and maybe a double down in one of the ones that Danielle just mentioned, but it's the fact that you have to resist the urge to use proxy metrics. So what I call proxy metrics is, I don't know how much data you have on the lake or how many lines of codes your product has. That is a proxy metric. The real metric is why are you trying to accomplish by doing anything, either a data project or a software that you have to have a million lines of code. It really doesn't matter. And the point is, what is the reason that you're doing this? What is the main thing that you really want to achieve? That could be not only money, that could be customer experience, could be retention, satisfaction, you name it. But it has to be with the main goal in mind. And to be able to resist the urge to use those proxy metrics, you really need to understand and be very aligned with the business. What is what you're trying to achieve? And other, if you don't do that, you can get lost in a lot of technology hurdles that you don't even have to if you are not very clear what is what you're trying to accomplish with whatever work you're doing.
Yeah, I think you're being nice about what you're calling proxy metrics because I think I've heard vanity metrics or things that people feel is easy to measure. Sometimes I think it's also a red flag when you don't want to measure because it's hard to measure it, but you know it's the right thing to measure. All right, so we've asked you about the don'ts and you kind of started to answer the do's. So let me ask you, what is the absolute must do tomorrow when someone that's listening to you is saying, you know what, I want to embark on a similar journey. I want to be as successful as Danielle and Jaime. And there's a one thing I need to do. Is it someone you need to hire, a type of role you need to go for, a type of initiative you need to go after?
I think it's simpler than that and somewhat harder than that. I always hire for people, and I aspire to be kind, smart, and curious. I think if you're kind, smart, and curious, you can accomplish anything.
Kind, smart, and curious. That's a great way to kind of evaluate candidates. What about you, Jaime? Are there particular roles you're looking for, or culture fit principles you're going after, or both?
Well, for sure, the technical skills are very required, but I much echo Danielle's comment on the fact that you really need to fit the culture that you're looking for. And one of the main things for the transformation that we're doing with data is the fact that you have to enable everybody in your organization to be data champions, data campaigners. And the way I see it is there's always an S curve of technology adoption that happens in any company for any transformation you want to have, and you need to be able to ensure that the people at the top of the S curve have everything they're required to go fast and be able to get those stories and motivate the rest of the S curve to move to the right by showing all the good things that you're doing there. So you motivate the rest of the organization to go there. And for that, yeah, you need data engineers, you need data scientists, you need very much all these technical skills. But what I really is going to make them successful in social transformation is their ability to be able to transform that into narratives, into stories that actually they can get to different teams across the organization and motivate the transformation that you're trying to execute.
Well, Danielle and Jaime, thank you both so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I could talk to you both for hours, and I hope that people listening to us too got a lot of value out of today's session. Like I said when we started, I want to make sure that they feel free to reach out to you, connect with the content that we've created today to get them started and be successful in their journey. I hope everyone here is enjoying the event as much as we are. Until next time, I'm Bruno Aziza.